So this is my story part two. I was just thinking that the first part was really from like 0 to 7 years old, because that was when my parents were still kind of married. Then we moved away from there and moved to another city. And my dad had a new job where he traveled. So he would be gone for a week, every other week, I think, maybe. Or maybe it's either that or once a month. I think it was, yeah, whatever. Um, So, and we started out in a little apartment and then moved into a house that we had quite a while. And um, by then, I was in second grade. My sister was in seventh grade. And so she was dealing with she was having a hard time, I think, dealing with the change of school at her age. It was difficult for me because I was ultra shy, but I think it was probably really hard on her she was going through her puberty and early teenage years. Um, but I don't really even remember my dad at that house. I remember my mom somewhat in the kitchen, but that's where I remember mom. She was in the kitchen, or the other part that I remember about my mom. This is where I realized I wanted to sing. Well, my mom used to play bridge I don't know if it was every Tuesday. I think it was the Boozy Tuesdays, I think they were called. And because one of the ladies that she played bridge with made home brew. So they would get drunk and play bridge, apparently. So anyway, that's what mom did. So when mom would do that, I'd be home alone because dad would be wherever he was at work, and my sister was not home. So I would pull all the curtains in the living room and a little bit low. And then I would put on an album. It was either Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, My Fair Lady. And then later it became, and then sometimes it was Andy Williams' Christmas album. Because I was the only one that listened to music and that liked music. I had a bunch of 45s later, and then I would sing and dance around the living room. I was the star of the living room, and that's where I learned to sing. I could I could sing all those songs probably right now if I had to. I did it a lot. And so, but my parents, no one in my family until I was probably in my 40s even knew I could sing, other than I'd been in choir, that they didn't think of me as a singer. And so there's that. And then um, later, when I was 50 before my mom heard me sing, and she was like, "What? I didn't know you could do that." So, those scars, those I didn't think anybody cared. Nobody. I was afraid. I was afraid of criticism because my sister was uber critical, and I was just afraid to make a fool of myself. No one had encouraged me out of my shyness. No one had ever noticed that I was shy and said, "Hey, let's help her." And back then, people, they barely noticed their kids, I think, but I know there were loving parents back then, and I know my parents loved me. They never said it. They didn't really even show it that much, other than providing for me. And I really don't want all of this to come across as a sob story, because I just feel like it's relatable, and um, I know that they were doing the best they could. That's all they knew. My mom was an only child, so she didn't even know how to probably be a mom. None of us. We don't get a rule book when we have kids, so none of us really know that. And my dad was, he was just kind of a selfish asshole. He was a good guy. He was funny. Everybody loved my dad. He lived to be 100 frickin' two, and um, he was a good guy. He did a lot of really nice things and was really good to people, but he was an asshole as a dad. He just wasn't a very good dad. Not to me. That'll be another chapter of this story. Will be what my dad did, but we'll get to that later. So, um, yeah, you know, uh, it was a weird life. I had a weird upbringing. And honestly, I really am surprised that I actually turned out as well as I did. Given when I talk about it, I say these things out loud and I really start accepting it, thinking about it as an adult. I realize I'm amazed I'm not a drug addict or I haven't killed myself. Just because of the kind of person I am, I'm surprised I didn't succumb to that because I am super sensitive. Anyway, that is part two. I don't know how many parts we're going to have, but anyway, I'll be back with the next one. If you're still here, thank you. Thank you so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you. All right. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and thank you for listening.